Welcome everyone to the Lawyers Committee and the Truth Action Project program. Today's program is called Recognizing and Pushing Back the Post 9/11 Police State. Our program, and we have Dr. Meryl Nass, and she's going to speak about the anthrax letters and coronavirus. Avoid solving the crimes, but take advantage of the possibilities. Now, her background is she's a doctor, and she's an internal medicine physician who was the first person to have shown that an epidemic ascribed to natural causes was due to biological warfare. This involved the use of anthrax during the Rhodesian Civil War. She has testified to 7 congressional committees on anthrax, biodefense vaccines, Gulf War syndrome. She has written widely on the anthrax letters, Ebola, and swine flu and COVID-19 pandemics. Thank you, Meryl. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. So, crisis or opportunity, the anthrax letters and the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic. There were a lot of similarities between these two events.
Someone's making a lot of noise back there. If you would mute yourself. Someone, I don't know if you're cooking or what. Okay. Sorry, Meryl.
Sure. Each was preceded with a scripted simulation. Each was supposed to have originated in countries that the US had already targeted. Industry made a huge amount of money on both of them. And a real investigation as to the provenance of either the anthrax letters and the SARS-2 virus has been prevented using a variety of techniques, including calls to authority, fake investigations, and shaming of conspiracy theorists. COVID has taken the surveillance to a higher level by adding contact tracing, snitching, and the requirement that some people download cell phone apps so that their movements can be tracked. COVID has also taken narrative control of the media to a new level. 2001 brought the global war on terror, which some say caused 37 million refugees and cost $6 trillion so far. But in 2020, the global war on terror seems to have come home to the United States and the rest of the world. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Somebody else has to put themselves on mute. We hear a radio or something in the background. Thank you.
Okay. Small businesses have been destroyed, education, medical care destroyed, policing attacked, tens of millions will probably become homeless. There's a word for this. It's called low intensity warfare. We're suffering from false news, bribed politicians, social chaos. Is there a color revolution going on in the United States? Where is this leading us, and who's in charge? For some, there is opportunity. One company that I'm famous for investigating is the anthrax vaccine manufacturer. This company bought the anthrax vaccine plant from the state of Michigan for a very small sum and had the US government assume liability for the product and pay for all repairs and rebuilding of the plant. They had one problem. FDA would not relicense the factory to make anthrax vaccine between 1998 and 2001. But they benefited when the anthrax letters started to arrive. Tommy Thompson insisted that the vaccine manufacturer would be opened, and FDA relicensed them in January of 2002. Subsequently, they earned unbelievable record profits, perhaps, for a government contractor. They started buying up other biodefense companies, and they are currently worth $7 billion, around 500 times what the company cost in 1998. One of their latest products was Narcan nasal spray, the opioid antidote, and since they bought that company, sales are up 600%. And my governor bought one kit for every 37 people in Maine. But what the people watching need to know is that this company, Emergent Biosolutions, or EBS, has been chosen to manufacture 3 of the 8 COVID vaccines that have been selected for advanced development by the US government. Those are the AstraZeneca vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and the Novavax COVID vaccine. So you have to be aware they have had several products that have had terrible reputations, and we have no idea. They've never brought a product to market themselves. We have no idea how their manufacturing will be of these vaccines. To change the subject, terrorizing and controlling us with false information. We have been instilled with terror about the virus, partly by the spread of contradictory, completely confusing, and implausible media messages, which has left many in the country helpless. They can't make sense of the news they're getting. Where I live, most of the cases that are being counted aren't even sick. They're asymptomatic and they're not spreading the disease. I want to make clear that immunity does occur after infection through T cells, whether or not you can measure antibodies. This has long been known for viruses, and that repeat infections are extraordinarily rare. Surreal, extraordinary, amazing, illegal methods have been used to suppress information about effective drugs that will treat this virus. Those drugs include hydroxychloroquine, which is the one we know most about, but there are others. Governors, pharmacy boards, health departments, and others have made the use of hydroxychloroquine illegal in many countries, in certain states, under certain conditions. And the FDA, CDC, and NIH have all instructed doctors not to use it. With this effective treatment, hydroxychloroquine, the pandemic would actually end quickly. It is highly effective early. It's partially effective late. It is pretty good, not perfect, as a prophylactic with 2 pills a week, which is being used in some areas of the world. There's a website, c19study.com, that is a tremendous resource. It's updated daily, and you can read all about this with all the papers that have been published. Low vitamin D and zinc levels in the blood are both associated with more severe illness, so you may want to either take supplements or have your levels checked.
Okay.
And I'm just going to mention a few of the steps that have been used to suppress the use of hydroxychloroquine. First is that at least 4 huge multi-center clinical trials decided to overdose patients, giving them 4 times the normal amount. This is a potentially lethal dose, especially in smaller people. And excessive deaths in the trials made the drug appear ineffective. NIH's guidelines were written by a large number of people. About half the guideline committee had financial ties to the manufacturer of hydroxychloroquine's, hydroxychloroquine's competitor. Next slide. Fauci's NIAID canceled their 2 trials of outpatient treatment with the drug before they were completed, claiming they didn't have enough subjects, but probably to prevent the positive effects.
Excuse me, Meryl.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't start. I'm on. I didn't start even to the first slide, unfortunately. So the first slide.
I'm on 8.
Oh, okay. Let me make sure I get the count right. Okay.
Can we put this slideshow on for people who come to look at this afterwards?
Sure we can.
Okay. All right. Trials that were funded were restricted to hospitalized patients, and at one time the FDA said only hospitalized patients should get the drug. Now they say only patients in clinical trials should get the drug. This is too late to be very effective, and as we've seen, clinical trials can be controlled. There's been a sustained drumbeat by experts and the media that the drug doesn't work.
Merle's been muted. Who's muted? Merle. Hello.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
There's been a drumbeat by experts in the media that the drug doesn't work, claiming that there's published clinical data to prove this. Yet, if you actually look at all the data, the reverse is true. Doctors who have proclaimed the benefits of the drug are banned, shadow banned, or expelled from social media platforms and from the mainstream media. This hydroxychloroquine is derived from chloroquine, which is derived from quinine, and quinine comes from the bark of a tree. Quinine is the active ingredient in tonic water. A gin and tonic will give you some prophylaxis against this disease. The tonic, the quinine, is effective, as is the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. You'd need to drink a lot of gin and tonics to get enough, unfortunately. Hydroxychloroquine costs $1 for a full course. Remdesivir costs $3,000 or more, and it's only good in the late stage. This is the web address for my blog, which is a living list, I keep adding to it, of 50 different ways the use of hydroxychloroquine has been suppressed. The fact that we have an effective drug for SARS-CoV-2, and yet governments around the world, manufacturers, the UN, other groups, very powerful groups have been suppressing it, tells us without question that the powers that be are committed to maintaining the pandemic for other reasons. Now, the important question is, why are the powers that be committed to maintaining the pandemic, defunding the police, destroying education, encouraging demonstrations that last months? Maybe I am going off the deep end. I'm going to start being speculative, but here are some possibilities. Slide 10. This was published in the journal Cell on September 3rd by America's doctor, Tony Fauci. Quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic is yet another reminder added to the rapidly growing archive of historical reminders that in a human-dominated world in which our human activities represent aggressive, damaging, and unbalanced interactions with nature, we will increasingly provoke new disease emergences. We remain at risk for the foreseeable future. This should force us to begin to think in earnest and collectively about living in a more thoughtful and creative harmony with nature." Okay, this is from the guy who more than anyone has prolonged the pandemic. This has to be examined closely. This statement is a narrative that blames human encroachment on nature for the pandemic. It insists that current human activities will provoke more pandemics. What is it intended to mean? Is it foreshadowing a population cull, moving people from the country into cities? Furthermore, this narrative depends on SARS-CoV-2 having originated in a bat cave and not in a lab. This may be why the lab origin theory has taken so much heat. It also may be why the major public opponent of the theory that SARS-CoV-2 originated in a lab, whose name is Peter Daszak of the EcoHealth Alliance, who also helped fund the Wuhan lab. Why did he get 77 Nobel laureates to write to NIH on behalf of his funding? He's funded by DOD, NSF, USAID, and Fauci's NIAID. He's been mentored in Nature, Science, the New York Times, The Guardian, and NPR in the last month, always propounding the theory that human encroachments on nature are the cause of pandemics. Here's just a paper from 2015 published in Nature, which revealed that a lab-made coronavirus chimera had been designed to infect human cells. Just one bit of evidence that viruses like the current one do come from labs. Impressive efforts have been made to suppress that theory. So I'm just going to give you a sampling of what the media is running now to try to push this narrative that humans are to blame for this pandemic and future pandemics.
2 minutes
This
left,
one,
Meryl. Two
okay,
minutes. Thank you.
this one,
Which
focuses-
slide?
I'm sorry, 12. This one focuses on the wildlife trade. WHO is supposed to be investigating the pandemic, but they're not investigating a lab origin. And I don't believe they're going to Wuhan either, even though the route it got to humans remains a mystery. Slide 13, World Economic Forum is in total agreement with Fauci. Worse pandemics are on the way if we don't protect nature. This is the New York Times last week. It says the pandemic is your fault. Yes, yours. Global Health Now at Johns Hopkins wrote, quote, relentless land development has upset ecosystems' natural balance. The root of this damage, human consumption, must be reconsidered, says Peter Daszak of EcoHealth Alliance. This is from The Guardian. Quote, nature is sending us a message. According to the UN's environmental chief, humanity is placing too many pressures on the natural world. To prevent future outbreaks, the experts said, both global heating and the destruction of the natural world for farming, mining, and housing have to end, as both drive wildlife into contact with people. Are we starting to see a pattern here? Will fear over this and future pandemics be used in the name of preventing pandemics, global warming, and protecting nature to create a new society characterized by reduced consumption and reduced use of land? Slide 16. I began this talk suggesting this was a crisis for some, an opportunity for others. The World Economic Forum sees opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Meryl.
Slide
Thanks.
17.
Thank you very much.